The cry for help the council chamber was filled with shadows, long pillars of light cutting through the dark as alien leaders sat in silence. The air was heavy, every breath tight with fear, every whisper trembling. They had gathered from across the stars, but their voices were weak, and their eyes told only one story: defeat. Their worlds were burning. The invaders came like storms, ripping through defenses, tearing down cities, and leaving only ash behind. The proud fleets of the Zern, the disciplined soldiers of the Vathai, even the cunning spies of the Solthari Nan had survived the endless wave. Every weapon failed, every defense shattered, every prayer unanswered. Now, only desperation remained. They had called upon allies, begging for help, sending pleas across every channel, every star line, but one by one, the other civilizations turned away. Some claimed neutrality, others claimed weakness, and some simply vanished into silence. No one wished to face the enemy. No one wished to stand with them. At last, one frail voice rose in the chamber, the voice of Elder Rain, his skin pale and worn, his eyes like glass. "We cannot stand alone," he whispered, his voice breaking. "We must call them." The chamber froze, every leader stiffening. Everyone knew who he meant. Humans, Deathworlders, the species too wild, too violent, too dangerous to be trusted. For centuries, the galaxy avoided them, warning one another never to deal with them, never to provoke them. Stories painted humans as beasts that had survived. A cursed world, a planet that tried to kill them every day with storms, quakes, diseases, and predators. And somehow, not only had they survived, they had thrived, they had spread to the stars, but they kept to themselves, never joining the great councils, never answering to the galaxy's laws. And perhaps that was why no one dared disturb them. But now, with death closing in, with extinction waiting at the door, the forbidden's name had been spoken. Humans. The chamber erupted in argument. Some shouted in fury, their voices sharp. "You would bring monsters into our galaxy? They will not save us. They will claim us." Others trembled in fear. "If they answer, we cannot control what they will do. If they fight for us, they may destroy more than the enemy." And some, with hollow eyes, only sat in silence, because, deep inside, they knew it was the only chance. The debate raged for hours, words rising and falling like storms, but hope was thinner than the air they breathed. Finally, silence fell again. It was Elder Rain who stood, his voice shaking but firm. "Better to unleash monsters on our enemies than to let our children burn," he said. "If we perish fighting, not crawling." The words struck deep. One by one, the council members bowed their heads. The vote was called, and though many resisted, though many wept, the choice was made. A message would be sent to Earth, not a request, not a tree, but a cry for help. The chamber lights dimmed as the ancient machines activated, sending the signal into the deep void. The words carried across the stars, raw and desperate. "To the Deathworlders of Earth, to the humans of Sol, our worlds burn, our children scream, our skies fall. We beg you, help us." When the signal ended, silence fell once more. The leaders sat, breathing heavily, as if a great weight had been dropped upon them. Some shook their heads, whispering that they had just doomed them all. Others prayed silently, hoping that maybe the stories of human fury could become salvation. Days passed, then weeks. The signal echoed in empty space, unanswered. Rumors spread that the humans would never come, that they had already heard and ignored the call. The council began to collapse into despair, leaders retreating to their doomed worlds, preparing to face the end. And then the silence broke. It was not with words, not with promises, but with a presence. The long-range sensors lit up, alarms screaming, officers gasping as readings flooded in. Something massive was moving in the void. Dozens of unknown signatures, each one larger than any ship the galaxy had ever seen. No banners, no symbols. Only dark shapes cutting through the stars like blades. The chamber filled again. Leaders rushing to the command deck. On the great screen, the fleet appeared, cold and silent, human warships, their hulls black as midnight, their engines burning like suns. They did not announce themselves. They did not send words of peace. They only came. A hush fell. Some whispered in awe, some in terror, some in trembling hope. The humans had heard the cry, and they had answered, not with mercy, but with fury, * the silent arrival. The first sight of the human fleet was like a wound in the stars. Black ships drifting with no sound, no signal, no warning, their engines burning with pale fire. The council chamber trembled as the alien leaders stared at the screens. For centuries they had feared humans, and now the Deathworlders had arrived. No. Voice came through the combs. No greeting, no demand, no promise, just silence, heavy and sharp, as if the ships themselves carried judgment. Alien commanders tried to scan them, but their systems faltered, readings scrambled by strange energy fields. The human ships seemed alive, vast predators. Lurking in the dark, they come as shadows. One council member whispered, his voice shaking, "Shadows with teeth." Another shouted, "We do not even know why they are here. Maybe they come not to save us, but to finish what the invaders began." Fear spread like fire in the chamber, but none dared speak louder, because the humans were already watching. The invader fleets had gathered, vast armadas glowing in the void, confident in their power. For weeks they had crushed world after world, unchallenged, unbroken. Now they faced something new, something unknown. And though they did not yet fear, they soon would. From the human ships came no warning, no battle cry. Instead, the silence deepened, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. Then, with sudden fury, the first shot was fired. A railgun round, moving faster than light shadow, tearing through an enemy cruiser like it was paper. The enemy screamed in confusion, their ships scattering. But the humans did not scatter. They moved with terrifying unity. One by one, their warships lit the void with fire, railguns, plasma bursts, and weapons no alien eye had ever seen. Each strike was brutal, precise, merciless, the aliens in the chamber gasped as entire enemy formations vanished in seconds. What their fleets had failed to do in years, the humans accomplished in minutes. But it was not victory that chilled the council's hearts. It was the silence. The humans spoke no words, sent no signals, gave no explanations. They fought like executioners, not allies. On the ground, whispers spread through refugee camps. The humans came, the desperate murmured. The Deathworlders came. Some cried in relief. Others trembled in fear, because no one knew what price would be paid for this salvation. The enemy, once arrogant, now roared in panic, their fleets launching counterstrikes. Tens of thousands of ships turned their weapons on the human armada, but the humans did not flinch. Their ships moved like shadows in the dark, weaving through fire, answering with storms of destruction. The council chamber filled with cries. "They are winning! They are winning!" But Elder Rain only lowered his head, his voice grave. "No," he said softly, "they are not winning, they are judging." And indeed, the humans were not fighting like saviors. They were fighting like predators. Every shot, every maneuver, carried no mercy. It was not the defense of allies. It was the extermination of prey. As the battle raged, alien leaders tried desperately to hail the human fleet. Message after message was sent, filled with gratitude, filled with pleas, but none were answered. The humans spoke with fire, and that was enough. The alien soldiers who watched from planetary defenses were struck with awe. The humans landed not as liberators, but as storms. Armored warriors descended in drop pods, their machines shaking the earth. They did not hesitate. They did not negotiate. They did not wait. They fought as if every enemy was already condemned. Whispers spread again, sharper this time. If they fight like this for strangers, how do they fight for themselves? The thought sent shivers through the galaxy. Because the answer was too terrifying to imagine, the enemy fleets began to break, their commanders screaming. For the first time in countless years of conquest, they knew fear, and it was not the fear of defeat, it was the fear of being erased. The council chamber, once filled with despair, now filled with unease. Some leaders whispered thanks, others whispered prayers, but all of them knew the same truth. They had called for salvation, and what had come was something far darker. The humans did not cheer their victories, did not pause to rest. Their ships burned through the void, silent and relentless. Every enemy world they found was marked, every stronghold destroyed. The galaxy began to tremble, because it was no longer the enemy who seemed unstoppable. It was the Deathworlders, and as the humans advanced, silent and merciless, one thought haunted every alien mind. We begged for help, and they answered. But what if they never stop? Asterisk. Fury unleashed, the invaders once laughed when the name of humanity was spoken. To them, humans were myths, stories told to frighten children, tales of beasts from a cursed world. But when the first human strike tore apart an enemy cruiser in seconds, the laughter died. Now fear spread through their armadas. Sharp and sudden, the humans did not advance slowly. They descended like storms. One fleet of Deathworlders struck at the heart of the invader formation. Railguns blazing, plasma fire tearing through shields. Their ships moved with precision. Like hunters circling prey, every shot was exact, every maneuver planned, and each strike left nothing but wreckage. Alien observers, watching through desperate transmissions, could hardly believe their eyes. The invaders had conquered hundreds of worlds without effort. Yet here, against humans, they faltered. Every alien fleet had once broken like glass before the enemy's weapons. But the humans were different. Their hulls held, their firepower grew fiercer, their will unshaken. It was as if the enemy had finally met a wall they could not climb. On the ground, the story was even darker. Human drop pods slammed into war-torn cities, craters bursting with fire as armored soldiers stepped into smoke. Their armor gleamed with strange symbols, their visors glowing like predators in the night. The first human raised his weapon, and in that moment, the invaders knew terror. Where alien soldiers screamed and ran, humans advanced. They fought with fury, every strike carrying the weight of rage. Their weapons were not made for balance or mercy. They were made to destroy. Alien civilians hiding in shattered buildings peeked through broken walls. They saw humans cut through enemy troops like blades through silk. Not one human fell without 10 enemies falling first. An alien commander whispered as he watched, his voice weak. They are not here to protect. They are here to punish. And the truth of his words sank deep into every survivor's heart. The invaders tried to regroup, their fleets forming massive walls of firepower. They thought numbers would save them, but the humans answered with a different kind of war. Stealth ships cut through their rear. Carriers launched drones that swarmed like metal locusts. Entire formations vanished in explosions. Enemy generals silenced before they could even cry for retreat. Still, the humans did not speak. They did not send messages of hope, did not claim alliance. Only fire spoke for them, and fire was enough. The galaxy trembled at the sight. For generations, humans had been avoided, kept at the edges of maps. Now the truth was revealed. Humanity was not a myth, not a rumor. They were fury itself. And once unleashed, nothing could stand in their path. On one ruined world, a group of alien refugees watched a human squad carve through invader soldiers. The aliens huddled together, whispering prayers. But when the last enemy fell, the humans did not turn to comfort them. They simply marched onward, silent, relentless, leaving behind both fear and awe. What are they? One alien child asked softly. Her mother pulled her close, whispering with shaking lips. They are the Deathworlders, child. They are what we called upon, and now they fight for us. But her eyes held no relief, only dread, because she, too, wondered if they had summoned something worse than the invaders themselves. The enemy's desperation grew, their fleets calling for reinforcements. But no matter how many came, the humans broke them. Their weapons seemed endless, their rage unchained. The galaxy had begged for help, and what came was not an army. It was a storm that destroyed everything in its path. Back in the council chamber, the alien leaders sat frozen. The screens before them showed fire and ruin. Some cheered in joy, tears running down their faces. Others sat pale and silent, because they saw the truth clearer than anyone. The humans were not saviors, they were executioners, and executioners never stopped until their work was done. As the battle ended, silence filled the stars once more. The invader fleet lay in ruins, their wreckage drifting like broken bones. The humans did not cheer, did not pause, did not rest. They turned their ships toward the next star system. Engines burning brighter, and in that silence the galaxy shivered. For the first time in history, the invaders felt what others had felt for years. The weight of human fury, a fear of Deathworlders unleashed, the turning tide, the war that once seemed lost now began to shift. Across broken star systems, where alien armies had once fallen in despair, human banners now burned against the dark. Everywhere the Deathworlders arrived, the invaders began to crumble. But it was not hope that filled the galaxy. It was fear. On the planet Vera, the invaders had held millions of captives, towering fortresses filled with screens and chains. Alien soldiers had tried and failed 100 times to break through. But when the humans came, they did not siege, they did not negotiate. They struck like lightning. Their machines tore through walls. Their soldiers burst into fire-lit halls. Every invader inside was erased before they could even raise a weapon. The prisoners, freed at last, stared at their human rescuers. But the humans did not smile. They did not embrace. They gave food, water, and a path to safety. Then they marched forward, silent, as if saving lives was only an afterthought. The true war was still ahead. The invaders tried to adapt. They brought their heaviest ships, weapons that had burned whole moons into ash. But the humans answered, with technology no one had ever seen. Weapons that bent space itself, rounds that pierced shields like they were nothing. Every time the enemy tried a new tactic, the Deathworlders broke it. The turning tide was not just battle, it was a storm, washing everything away. Alien commanders whispered among themselves, trying to understand, how do they fight like this? Do they never tire? Reports spoke of humans holding lines for days without rest. Others told of soldiers pulling comrades back from the brink, refusing to fall until the last breath. And where other armies broke in fear, the humans only grew fiercer. It was as if their cursed world had built them to survive anything. In the council chamber, leaders watched in disbelief. The maps that once glowed red with enemy victories now shifted. One by one, star systems turned dark, marked with wreckage and silence where human fleets had passed. Hope began to flicker, but it was mixed with dread. Because if humans could destroy their enemies so completely, what else could they destroy? On the ground, alien soldiers began to fight alongside human squads. At first they trembled, afraid even to speak near them. But in battle, they saw something unexpected. Though humans were merciless to the enemy, they fought with unshakable loyalty to each other. No soldier was ever left behind, no ally abandoned. This loyalty spread like fire, giving courage to those who once would have run. And yet, whispers grew. If they fight like this for strangers, what will they do for themselves? It was not a question of strength. It was a question of control. Because the galaxy now knew no one could control Deathworlders. The invaders began to fear more than defeat. They feared extinction. Their generals screamed for retreat, but retreat was impossible. The humans pursued them across every star, never stopping, never forgiving. Wherever the invaders fled, the humans followed. The tide had turned, and the galaxy could only watch on the world of Alpha Prime, the final defense. Line stood. Millions of invader soldiers waited behind walls of steel and fire, the sky filled with their warships, blotting out the sun, and then the humans came. Their ships blocked the stars, their weapons lit the ground, the battle raged for days, mountains torn apart, oceans boiling with fire, but the invaders could not hold. Every push was met with greater fury, every victory shattered within moments. An alien commander, bloodied and weary, looked at the battlefield and whispered, "This is not a rescue. This is a judgment." And he was right. The humans were not saving the galaxy. They were erasing a threat, and in doing so, they showed a power that even allies could not ignore. When the last invader line broke, when their fleets scattered like leaves in a storm, the galaxy knew the war had turned. The Deathworlders had brought more than strength. They had brought inevitability. The enemy would not just lose, they would vanish. And yet, as the humans advanced deeper, one thought haunted every survivor. If this fury ever turned against us, who would save us then? Asterisk. The cost of fury. The galaxy cheered when the maps turned blue again, when enemy fleets vanished and worlds were freed. But the cheers died quickly, because the humans did not celebrate. They did not hold ceremonies, did not share songs of victory. They only moved forward, silent, relentless, carrying their fury with them. On the liberated worlds, alien survivors waited for words of comfort. But when human soldiers arrived, they spoke only commands: stay low, stay safe, move this way. No speeches, no promises. The humans fought with fire, but their hearts seemed locked in iron. One council envoy dared to ask a question. "Why do you fight like this, Deathworlders? Why do you give your blood for us?" A human captain, scarred and tired, looked at him with cold eyes. "We don't fight for you," he said, his voice flat. "We fight because monsters like this should never exist." The words spread across the stars, repeated in every camp, every council chamber. And they brought both relief and fear. Relief, because the humans fought not for conquest, but for justice. Fear, because their justice was merciless. The invaders had begun sending surrender signals, desperate calls for truce, but the humans did not answer. Every ship they found was destroyed, every fortress erased, no survivors left to rebuild, no prisoners spared to rise again. Alien leaders grew uneasy. Had they unleashed saviors, or had they unleashed a storm that knew no end? Some whispered of calling the humans back, begging them to stop, but no one had the courage to send the message, because deep down they knew the humans would not stop until the enemy was dust. On the ground, alien soldiers who fought beside humans began to notice strange things. Human medics worked with endless patience on allies, treating wounds as if they were their own. But when an enemy was found alive, they gave only silence. A single shot ended every invader's breath. To humans, mercy was for the innocent, never for the guilty. A refugee child once tugged on the arm of a human soldier, asking softly, "Will you stay when the war is done?" The soldier knelt, his helmet shadowing his face. "No," he whispered, "we are not here to stay. We are here to end this." The child did not understand, but the words carried weight. The humans did not come as protectors. They came as executioners of evil. Back in the council chamber, Elder Rain watched the reports with heavy eyes. For every world freed, another burned. For every city saved, another was left in ruin from the scale of human weapons. "Victory carries a cost," he murmured, "and that cost may be more than we wish to pay." The alien leaders argued once more. Some said the humans were heroes. Others said they were a greater threat than the invaders, but none could deny the truth. Without the humans, the galaxy would have been ashes. With them, the galaxy trembled. The invaders, cornered and desperate, began to send envoys, ships carrying white flags, voices begging for peace, but every envoy was destroyed before it reached the human fleet. No quarter, no truce, no forgiveness. The humans had decided this enemy would never rise again. On the battlefield of Dasker Ridge, an alien general stood beside a human commander. The general looked at the burning horizon and whispered, "We will never be the same after this." The human gave no answer, only adjusted his rifle and walked into the smoke. The cost of fury was clear. The galaxy was alive, but changed forever. The invaders had awoken something ancient and unstoppable. And though they were dying in fire, every species watching asked the same question in silence. If one day the humans turned their fury on us, could we survive? Asterisk the final judgment. The war had dragged across 100 star systems. But now only one remained, the enemy's capital, the heart of their empire, a world wrapped in steel and fire. Here their leaders hid, surrounded by fleets larger than anything seen before. They believed their numbers would save them. They believed the humans could not break through. They were wrong. The human armada came like a shadow swallowing the stars. Their ships filled the void. Their engines burned brighter than suns. No speeches were sent, no demands for surrender, only silence, heavy and merciless. And then the judgment began. The first wave of human weapons split the skies. Railgun fire tore apart the outer defenses. Carrier drones swarmed into the atmosphere. Raining fire onto ground fortresses, the invaders fought with desperation, their fleets roaring back with endless volleys. But the humans did not yield. Every loss they took was answered with tenfold destruction. In the capital city, alien civilians screamed as firestorms fell. The invader rulers broadcast pleas for mercy, their voices desperate, but humanity did not answer. No one forgot the burned worlds, the enslaved children, the oceans turned to ash. And the humans had sworn there would be no forgiveness. On the ground, human soldiers stormed through blackened streets, their armor scorched, their visors glowing red in the smoke. They advanced without hesitation, without pause. Every bunker was cleared, every enemy executed. The enemy's strongest warriors fell one by one, until the city became a graveyard. The council chamber on a distant world watched in silence. Some leaders covered their eyes, others whispered prayers. But Elder Rain only stared. "This is not war anymore," he said. "This is judgment." The Invader High Council sent a final message, begging for peace. The humans destroyed the transmission before it could finish. There would be no peace, not while even one enemy lived, because to the humans, mercy for monsters was betrayal of the innocent. The enemy's last fortress fell as human artillery turned its walls into dust. Inside, their leaders huddled together. Trembling, one of them cried, "We only wanted power." But the words meant nothing. The doors shattered, and human soldiers entered, silent as death. What followed was not recorded, but when the humans left, nothing remained. The capital world burned for days, its skies choked with smoke from orbit. The flames looked like veins of fire wrapping the planet. When the last explosion faded, the enemy empire was gone, erased, root and branch, and yet there was no triumph in the humans' eyes. No joy, no victory, only silence, as if even they knew their fury had carried a weight too heavy to bear. The galaxy trembled at what it had seen. The enemy was destroyed, but the cost was terrifying. For in their fury, the humans had shown not just power, they had shown that no evil, no empire, no enemy could ever survive their judgment. And that truth would never be forgotten. In refugee camps, survivors whispered stories. They came like shadows. They fought like storms. They left like silence. Children asked if the humans would stay to protect them. But no, The humans had no interest in empire or rule. They came, they judged, they left. The council gathered once more, shaken and broken. One leader whispered, "We are safe now." But another replied, "No, we are not safe. We are simply alive because they allow it." And silence fell, because deep down, everyone knew it was true. The final judgment had been carried out. The invaders were gone, but the galaxy would never again look at the stars. Without fear, because somewhere in the dark, the Deathworlders waited, and if ever called again, they would bring fury that no one could stop. The aftermath, the enemy empire was gone, their fleets destroyed, their cities burned, their leaders erased. What once shook the galaxy with terror now lay in silence, a shadow of ash across the stars. But the galaxy did not cheer. There was no celebration, no songs, no parades. Because though the invaders were gone, what remained was something far heavier, the memory of human fury. On the council worlds, leaders gathered again, their voices trembling. They had begged for help. They had cried for salvation. And the humans had answered. But what they brought was not gentle protection, not mercy. It was judgment, swift and merciless, and the galaxy could not forget on the liberated planets. Survivors rebuilt their homes. They carried fresh water into broken streets, planted seeds in scorched soil. But when they spoke of their saviors, their voices were low, almost fearful. They came, they whispered, they saved us. And then softer. But they did not smile, they did not stay, because the humans never lingered. When the war was done, their fleets turned away, world by world, system by system. The black ships withdrew into the void. They left no monuments, no banners, no claims of ownership, only silence. One alien child asked her mother, "Why do they leave? Don't they want thanks?" The mother looked at the empty sky and whispered, "They are Deathworlders, child. Thanks is not what they seek." In the council chamber, Elder Rain spoke one last time. His voice carried across the galaxy in a message sent to every world. "We are alive because the humans chose to fight. Remember this truth. They fight not for us, but for what they believe must never rise again. And if ever they are called once more, pray it is for justice, not for vengeance." The message ended, and with it came silence, but not the silence of fear, the silence of understanding, for the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. On the edge of known space, the last human fleet gathered, engines glowing, weapons. Quiet, a single transmission was sent to the galaxy, short and cold. "Next time save yourselves." And then the humans were gone, vanishing into the endless dark. For years, their shadow remained. Alien children grew up whispering stories of the Deathworlders, how they came like storms, how they fought like predators, how they left like ghosts, and some asked if they would ever return. But none had an answer. The galaxy rebuilt, cities rose again, armies trained again, but beneath it all was the memory, the sight of worlds burning under human fire, the sound of silence after their judgment, the knowledge that one cry for help had unleashed something that could never be contained. The invaders were gone, but the galaxy's peace was fragile, because everyone now knew a truth far greater than war. Humanity was not weak, not silent, not forgotten. Humanity was fury, and when that fury was called, it answered. And when it answered, nothing survived unchanged, so the stars remained quiet, the council stayed cautious, and the galaxy prayed that it would never again be desperate enough to call for Deathworlders. Because salvation and destruction had come hand in hand, and no one could tell the difference until it was too late. The aftermath was not victory, not defeat. It was fear. Fear of the shadows that had come to save them, fear of the silence they left behind, fear of the day the humans might rise again. Asterisk.